The human crew of the starship Aurora waited in tense silence as the transport bay's doors hissed open. Beyond the reinforced glass, a figure floated gracefully, suspended in the zero-gravity chamber, bathed in pale light. She looked human at first glance, with delicate features and long, silver-streaked hair that shimmered faintly. Yet there was something unmistakably alien about her. Her eyes, a deep violet, seemed to look past the walls, the crew, even the stars themselves. Captain Adrian Voss, a man who had faced hostile alien worlds, rogue asteroids, and political threats from Earth's own factions, stepped forward. His boots clicked against the metal floor, echoing through the quiet bay. He had been trained to react to danger, to anticipate it, yet this was unlike anything he had encountered before. She floated a few meters from the door, and for a moment neither side spoke. The ship hummed around them, a steady vibration that reminded Adrian of the fragility of life in space. Then she spoke, her voice musical but firm, carrying an unfamiliar cadence. "I was a gift, human. Why haven't you touched me yet?" He raised his hands slightly in a gesture of calm. "Touch you?" he asked, keeping his voice neutral. "I'm not sure what that means in your culture." "Humans, you hesitate." Her gaze swept across the crew, assessing, calculating. Adrian took a careful step forward. "I am Captain Adrian Voss. This is the crew of the Aurora. We are honored by your presence. But I do not act without understanding. That is how humans approach gifts." Her form shimmered faintly under the bay lights, a subtle radiance that seemed almost natural. "I see, you are cautious. You are unlike others." Her eyes met his. "Perhaps that is why you are the human chosen to receive me." It was one thing to meet an alien species in passing, another to host one on board a flagship. The implications were enormous. Every protocol, every precaution would need to be considered. Adrian gestured toward the transport bay controls. "Let us bring you aboard fully in a controlled environment. You will be in our medical and scientific quarters until we understand more about your purpose." A human engineer whispered, "She's interfacing with the ship somehow." "Then perhaps I am not just a gift, Captain. Perhaps I am a test, not of strength or technology, but of patience, understanding, humanity." The results flickered on the monitors. Biology partially human-like, but with exotic cellular structures, glowing faintly under specific wavelengths. Systems that no human device had ever recorded before. Adrian studied the readings, realizing that this being was not only alive but also intricately connected to her own technology. She wasn't merely a visitor. She was a key, a living interface that could interact with alien systems in ways humans couldn't yet comprehend. The alien spoke again, calm and melodic. "Do not fear me. My purpose is not to harm. I am a gift to test your species' worthiness. Not by battle, not by strength, but by thought, care, and ingenuity. I will not fail to understand. Humans have a reputation for curiosity and resourcefulness. Perhaps you will find it enlightening." Every action seemed logical but beyond conventional understanding, a blend of biology and technology working together seamlessly. Lyra, as she allowed them to call her, observed the crew as closely as they observed her. She noticed the subtle ways humans cooperated, the way they problem-solved under pressure, the way they respected hierarchy but also encouraged initiative. Unlike alien species that relied on strict rules or brute force, humans combined flexibility, empathy, and innovation. "Humans," she murmured one evening as the crew worked tirelessly to map her physiology and interface with the ship. "You are remarkable. You hesitate, yet you act decisively when required. You are not predictable. That is rare. Your species exceeds expectation." Adrian spent hours in private contemplation, reviewing the scans and reports. Every anomaly, every subtle interaction, pointed to one undeniable truth. Humanity had been presented with an opportunity unlike any before. They were not merely hosting a guest. They were entrusted with a being whose capabilities could reshape interstellar understanding. Late in the night, Adrian returned to the medical bay. Lyra was floating near the observation window, staring out at the stars. "Do you wonder, human, why I have been sent here?" she asked softly. "I do," Adrian replied, stepping beside her, "and I will learn in my way. Not through force, not through recklessness, but through observation, understanding, and respect." He felt a rare surge of pride, not in himself, but in humanity. Humans were often underestimated by advanced civilizations. They lacked the instantaneous reactions of AI, the raw psychic abilities of certain alien species, and the speed of genetically enhanced beings. Yet they had something else, an ability to think beyond instinct, to respect life and choice, and to improvise solutions where others saw none. Lyra's presence became a mirror. She reflected the best of humanity, patience, courage, ingenuity, and even her teasing question, "Why haven't you touched me yet?" was not a mockery, but a lesson in restraint and understanding. As the hours passed, the crew began to grow more comfortable with her, though caution remained. They discussed her biology, her capabilities, and the potential impact on their mission. But always, Adrian reminded them, treat her as a partner, a test, and a guide, not a tool to be used or a prize to be claimed. Finally, as the artificial night cycle began aboard the Aurora, Adrian looked at Lyra once more. "Humanity may not act like other species," he said softly. "We do not rush. We do not seize without understanding. That is our gift. Perhaps that is why you are here, not just to test us, but to teach us what we can become. Then I shall observe, human. I shall watch and see how you rise." In that quiet moment, the first true contact between species felt less like confrontation and more like the start of a partnership, one that would test courage, patience, and ingenuity in ways no one could yet imagine. And though her voice had asked something that startled them at first, Adrian now understood. The question was not one of touch or desire. It was a challenge, a reflection of humanity itself. Would they rise to the occasion? Would they show the wisdom and strength that made them worthy of the galaxy's trust? Adrian took a deep breath and stepped back. For the first time in his career, he felt the weight of an opportunity that could define not only his life but the future of humanity among the stars. He looked at Lyra and said quietly, "We will rise, that is what humans do." Captain Adrian Voss walked through the corridors toward the medical bay, his steps steady, yet his mind raced with possibilities. Lyra, the Illyrian emissary, had settled into the ship, but every moment with her revealed complexities beyond anything humans had encountered before. She was not just a visitor. She was a living key, an interface with technology humans barely understood, and a mirror reflecting the very essence of humanity. Adrian entered the bay, where the crew was already observing Lyra's subtle interaction with the ship's systems. She floated gently above the center console, her hands extended as if conducting an invisible orchestra. Lights flickered along the walls and panels, responding to her presence. The crew exchanged murmurs of awe, but Adrian noticed something more profound. She was teaching them silently about the possibilities of partnership between human and alien intelligence. "Good morning," Adrian said calmly, approaching her. "How are you today? Perhaps that is why I was sent to you, to test not your strength, but your understanding, your caution, your humanity." That combination made them unpredictable, but also formidable. Lyra raised her hands, and the ship's diagnostic systems responded in real time. Panels flickered, holographic interfaces glowed, and streams of data flowed across the monitors. "Observe," she said softly. "I am integrated with your systems. But there are layers you do not yet see. That is what humans do." Every interaction was a test of observation, judgment, and collaboration. Adrian watched closely as the crew worked with her. They were cautious, but they did not hesitate to learn. They asked questions, tested hypotheses, and carefully explored her capabilities. In every instance, humans relied on logic, intuition, and teamwork. They did not attempt to dominate, nor did they panic when systems responded unpredictably. Instead, they adapted. By midday, the ship had completed several test simulations. Lyra floated near the observation window, her gaze fixed on the stars. "You learn quickly, humans. You are different. Most species would have rushed, using power, speed, or manipulation. You hesitate. You think, a puzzle meant to see what your species is truly capable of." Yet here in this quiet interaction, humanity's greatest strengths, patience, morality, ingenuity, were being tested in a way no one could anticipate. In the afternoon, the ship's engineering systems began to behave oddly. Minor anomalies appeared in navigation and energy flows. At first, the crew suspected technical glitches, but Adrian quickly realized this was part of Lyra's test. She had not caused harm, but she was presenting challenges to observe their problem-solving skills. "Everyone, remain calm," Adrian instructed. "We have anomalies, but we can handle them. Think logically, adapt, and coordinate." Engineers recalibrated systems using manual overrides, analysts studied patterns in the data, and Adrian coordinated their efforts. Lyra observed silently, occasionally offering subtle hints or shifting her presence to influence the ship's responses. Hours passed as the crew worked tirelessly. They encountered dead ends, false leads, and unexpected obstacles, yet they never lost focus. Humans had a remarkable ability to improvise, to find solutions where none seemed possible. They combined observation with intuition, reasoning with creativity. Finally, after a tense cycle, the anomalies stabilized. The Aurora's systems hummed smoothly once again. Lyra floated before Adrian, her expression one of quiet approval. "You succeeded," she said softly. "Not because you are stronger or faster, but because you think, adapt, and respect complexity. That is rare. That is human. Perhaps humans are the species that can rise to challenges that others cannot. You combine caution and courage in a way I have not seen before." She could interface with environmental controls, energy systems, and even security protocols. Yet every interaction required trust and respect. She did not allow manipulation or coercion, only collaboration. This dynamic fascinated Adrian. Unlike other alien species, Lyra did not demand obedience. She challenged the crew, tested their intellect, and observed their moral choices. The lesson was clear. Humans were not merely surviving the galaxy. They were learning, adapting, and proving their worth in ways the Illyrians had not expected. Late that cycle, Adrian took a quiet moment to review the data alone. The ship was silent except for the faint hum of life support. Lyra floated near the observation window, gazing at the stars. "Captain," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "there are decisions you will face that cannot be solved by technology alone. Logic, courage, empathy, these are your true tools. That is what I am here to see. Perhaps that is why we are here together, in this moment, in this place." That is rare. He reflected on the lessons of the day, the importance of patience, the value of observation, the power of ingenuity, and the need for ethical choice even under pressure. Humanity had survived in the galaxy not by brute strength, but by using its mind, heart, and collaboration. That combination was their greatest weapon and their greatest gift. Lyra floated near the observation window, speaking softly to no one in particular. "Humans, you do not rush. You do not act without reason. That is your strength. That is why you are different. That is why you may rise to challenges no one else can face." It was a test, a reflection, and a lesson. The true measure of humans was not in impulsive action, but in restraint, thought, and collaboration. As the stars stretched endlessly beyond the bay's windows, Adrian finally left the medical area to allow the crew some rest. Lyra remained, a quiet presence, observing, teaching, and challenging. Humanity's first steps in this new relationship had begun, and already the lessons were profound. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to prove that humans could rise above expectation. But for now, Adrian allowed himself a moment of pride, not in himself, but in his crew, in humanity. They had faced the unknown, adapted, and succeeded. And in doing so, they had proven what humans could achieve when guided by courage, intelligence, and respect. The Aurora drifted through the void, carrying its passengers toward a future filled with uncertainty, but also possibility. And Lyra, enigmatic and radiant, was both witness and guide, revealing to humans what they could become if they continued to rise to every challenge with thought, heart, and ingenuity. The Aurora glided silently through the uncharted sector, its engines humming a steady rhythm that reassured the crew even as the unknown stretched endlessly before them. For days, Captain Adrian Voss and his team had studied Lyra, the Illyrian emissary, observing her interaction with the ship's systems and learning from her subtle guidance. Yet the calm they had grown accustomed to was about to shift. It began with a faint anomaly in the navigation array. The instruments flickered erratically, showing minor distortions in spatial coordinates. Lieutenant Sarah Miles frowned at the display. "Captain, I'm seeing fluctuations in the nav systems. Nothing catastrophic yet, but it's unusual. It's as if the ship itself is responding to an external influence, but not like any normal gravitational or energy pattern. The disturbances you perceive are not random. They are deliberate. They seek to determine whether humans can withstand threats that are both technological and strategic. Their methods are subtle but effective. They were being tested not by natural hazards or hostile invaders, but by an alien faction that had not expected them to think creatively, to adapt morally, and to respond with teamwork." Adrian took a deep breath. "Then we respond as humans always do, carefully, intelligently, together. No panicking. We assess, plan, and act. That is our advantage." "Good, many would falter under pressure, relying on strength or fear. Humans, you rise above." Sarah, override the drone controls manually. Everyone else, secure the systems, observe its patterns, learn before acting. That is rare. They anticipated consequences, learned from mistakes, and respected one another's contributions. By the end of the cycle, the drone was contained. The navigation array stabilized, and the Aurora resumed a steady course. Lyra's eyes glimmered faintly in approval. You succeed not by force, but by intelligence and collaboration. You are capable. Alien signals flooded the ship's communication arrays, jamming them intermittently. Attempts to respond or trace the origin failed. Adrian realized that the rogue Illyrians were testing the crew's resourcefulness. Communication is compromised, he said, turning to his officers. We cannot rely on automated systems alone. We will work manually. Humans think differently than machines. That is our advantage. The crew mapped the interference, traced subtle frequencies, and improvised a manual coding sequence to stabilize communications. Lyra observed silently, impressed by their persistence and ingenuity. You do not give up, she murmured. That is human strength. Many would abandon the effort. You persist. The crew could send short messages, verify ship integrity, and even transmit limited updates to Earth Command. It was not perfect, but it was proof of human adaptability. Lyra's presence became increasingly important. She did not provide solutions outright, but offered subtle guidance, teaching humans to anticipate challenges, think beyond conventional logic, and combine intuition with observation. Her approach emphasized moral judgment as much as technical skill, and the crew grew to understand that respecting her autonomy was itself a lesson. Late that night, Adrian took a quiet walk through the ship, reflecting on the events. Lyra floated silently near the observation deck, staring at the stars with a gaze that seemed to pierce the void. He approached her cautiously. You have tested us, he said softly, and we have succeeded, but I sense there is more to come. What is the purpose of these challenges? We rise to challenges not because we seek them, but because survival demands it. And we do so together. That is humanity's greatest strength. There, your judgment, ethics, and courage will be your greatest tools. He realized that the rogue Illyrians were testing more than technical skill. They were probing the crew's ability to act ethically, collaboratively, and creatively under pressure. The following cycle brought the first major crisis. Sensors detected a massive energy surge ahead, emanating from a previously uncharted sector. The surge disrupted navigation, communication, and life support systems intermittently. Adrian gathered the crew in the command center. Listen carefully, he said. We do not know the origin of this surge. It may be natural, but the pattern suggests intelligent interference. Either way, our task is the same. Observe, analyze, and adapt. No rash decisions. She allowed the humans to make choices, guiding only when necessary, teaching the value of observation and moral decision-making under pressure. After tense hours, the Aurora emerged from the surge zone largely intact. Systems were damaged but repairable. The crew had adapted, improvising solutions that no automated protocol could have anticipated. Lyra floated near Adrian, her eyes bright with approval. You succeeded not because you controlled everything, but because you adapted. That is human ingenuity. That is why you are remarkable. That is what makes us human. Lyra had made it clear. The galaxy was full of challenges that required more than brute force. Humans' ability to analyze, adapt, and act ethically under pressure was what set them apart and what made them formidable. That night, as the artificial night cycle enveloped the Aurora, Adrian reflected on the day's events. Humans had faced unexpected threats, navigated complex systems, and solved problems that would have defeated many other species. They had done so not through dominance, but through observation, ingenuity, and moral judgment. Lyra floated near the observation window, staring at the stars. Her presence was calm, yet every movement conveyed awareness, intelligence, and subtle challenge. Adrian realized that her question from the first day, "Why haven't you touched me yet?" was never about physical contact. It was about restraint, understanding, and the ability to rise to challenges with thought, ethics, and collaboration. He turned to her, voice quiet but firm. We have faced your tests so far, Lyra, and we will continue to rise. Not because we are the strongest, but because we are human. We adapt, we observe, we collaborate. That is our gift. You will see that ingenuity, patience, and morality are sometimes stronger than weapons or technology. And Lyra, enigmatic and radiant, was both teacher and observer. guiding them to understand that the galaxy's true challenges would test mind, heart, and courage equally. As the stars stretched endlessly beyond the ship's windows, Adrian allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. Humans had endured the unexpected, adapted to the unknown, and proved that they could rise to challenges with intellect, ingenuity, and morality. The rogue Illyrians may have intended to test them, but humanity had not only survived, it had begun to shine. And somewhere in the depths of space, hidden threats waited. But the humans of the Aurora, guided by Captain Adrian Voss and observed by Lyra, were ready to meet them, not with fear, but with thought, courage, and the uniquely human combination of heart and mind. The calm aboard the Aurora lasted only a few cycles before the next challenge arrived. Sensors detected a massive gravitational anomaly ahead, a twisting distortion in space that threatened to pull the ship off course. Navigation systems flickered violently as the anomaly's edge drew closer. The crew quickly moved to the command center, alert but composed. Captain Adrian Voss stood at the center, his eyes scanning the displays. Everyone remained focused. This is not just a test of strength or speed. It is a test of observation, ingenuity, and teamwork. We will adapt. Then we improvise. Humans solve problems others cannot. That is our strength. Lyra, we will need your input, but only as guidance. Engineers worked on recalibrating shields and engines. Analysts traced the anomaly's shifting pattern, and Adrian coordinated their efforts. Every decision required both speed and careful thought. One wrong calculation could send the ship spinning into the distortion. Minutes stretched like hours as the Aurora approached the anomaly. The ship's hull creaked under strain, lights flickered, and warning sirens rang. Yet the crew remained composed, relying on each other's expertise and judgment. Adrian felt a surge of pride at their calm under pressure. Humans were not the fastest or strongest in the galaxy, but their resilience, intelligence, and coordination were unmatched. "Captain, the engines can compensate, but only partially," Sarah reported. "If we continue as is, we will lose maneuverability. I suggest a combined approach. Shield modulation synchronized with manual engine adjustments. It will require constant attention." "Trust your judgment." The crew improvised on the spot, using unconventional strategies to stabilize the ship. Engineers manually adjusted power flows, analysts predicted the anomaly's shifts, and Adrian guided their decisions with calm authority. Every success came from teamwork and ingenuity rather than brute force or advanced technology alone. Finally, the Aurora emerged from the edge of the anomaly, the ship shuddering but intact. Systems stabilized and the warning lights dimmed. The crew exhaled, relief washing over them. Lyra's eyes glimmered with quiet approval. "You have succeeded," she said softly. "Not because of technology, but because of thought, collaboration, and courage. That is human ingenuity. That is why you are remarkable." So far, the crew had proven that they could. Lyra moved closer, observing the crew as they repaired minor damages from the anomaly. "Humans are capable of greatness," she said. "You think quickly, act carefully, and value life. You do not dominate or destroy unnecessarily. That is why I am here, to witness and to guide. It is about understanding, learning, and growing. That is humanity's true strength. We can help, but it will require careful planning. The asteroid field is dangerous, and the ship's systems are already stretched from previous anomalies. We must rely on ingenuity and coordination to succeed. This will reveal your crew's ability to solve complex problems under pressure. Proceed wisely." As they navigated, an asteroid suddenly shifted, threatening to collide with the research vessel. Adrian acted instantly, coordinating manual engine bursts and shield modulation to deflect debris. Sarah and her team improvised emergency power reroutes to stabilize propulsion. Every action required precision, foresight, and trust in one another's abilities. The research vessel's crew watched in awe as the Aurora moved with uncanny coordination. Humans worked not through raw power, but through intelligence, observation, and teamwork. The asteroid was avoided, and the research vessel was safely guided to open space. Lyra observed silently, a faint smile on her lips. Humans are not only capable of surviving challenges, but also of protecting others while doing so. That is rare in the galaxy. You act with intelligence and compassion simultaneously. Every challenge, every anomaly had reinforced the unique qualities of humans: ingenuity, patience, morality, and cooperation. The rogue Illyrians had underestimated these traits, assuming humans would react like other species, with instinct or aggression. Instead, humans had risen above, demonstrating intelligence guided by ethics and collaboration. Lyra floated near the observation deck, her violet eyes reflecting the stars. "Captain," she said softly, "your species exceeds expectation. You combine thought with courage, innovation with ethics. Many would fail under these circumstances. Humans, you excel. That is what makes us human." Lyra spoke again, her voice calm and thoughtful. "Captain, humans are capable of rising to challenges that others cannot endure. You combine intellect, morality, and courage. That is why I remain here to witness and guide, and to see if humanity can truly fulfill its potential. That is the human way." They had proven their capability in the face of uncertainty, and their confidence had grown, tempered by humility and ethical responsibility. Captain Adrian Voss took one last look at the stars before retiring for rest. He reflected on the journey so far. Humans had faced tests of observation, ingenuity, and moral judgment. They had succeeded not through force, but through collaboration, intelligence, and courage. Lyra's presence had highlighted their strengths and exposed the unique qualities that made humans remarkable in the galaxy. The rogue Illyrians may have intended to test them, but the humans of the Aurora had not only survived, they had excelled. They had shown that humanity's combination of thought, courage, ethics, and teamwork was a force even advanced civilizations could not underestimate. As Adrian drifted into sleep, the Aurora glided silently through the void, carrying its crew and the enigmatic Lyra toward new challenges. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown dangers, but humans were ready. Their ingenuity, courage, and morality would guide them through the trials ahead, and Lyra, ever observant, would continue to witness the rise of humanity. And somewhere in the distance, hidden threats lingered, waiting for the next opportunity. But the humans aboard the Aurora had proven that they could overcome obstacles not by sheer power, but through intelligence, collaboration, and ethical judgment, the true hallmarks of a species destined for greatness. The Aurora drifted silently through the void, but the calm was deceptive. Captain Adrian Voss and his crew had faced anomalies, rogue interference, and deadly navigation hazards, yet the galaxy had one final test waiting for them. A massive signal pulsed on the ship's sensors, an advanced Illyrian stronghold, hidden in a remote sector, its systems bristling with defenses designed to challenge any intruder. Lyra's violet eyes reflected the incoming data. "This is the ultimate test, Captain. The rogue faction intends to see if humans can overcome not just anomalies, but complex strategy, advanced technology, and moral dilemmas simultaneously. Many species would fail here. But remember what we have learned. Humans succeed when we observe, adapt, and work together. We do not rely on strength alone. We rely on intelligence, courage, and morality. That is why we will succeed. Standard protocols will not work. We will need unconventional thinking and precise coordination." The crew worked swiftly. Engineers rerouted power, analysts predicted the drone's movements, and Adrian coordinated manual piloting to navigate the hazards. Lyra observed silently, her presence calm yet commanding. "Do not rely on me to solve this," she reminded them. "Observe, analyze, and act. That is the true test." They moved with precision, aiming to disable the Aurora's engines and communication systems. The crew reacted instantly, not with panic but with calculated improvisation. Using predictive analysis, they anticipated the drone's paths, timing shield pulses and evasive maneuvers with precision. Lieutenant Marco Reyes, the communications specialist, suggested a creative solution. "Captain, if we emit a counter-frequency, we can confuse their targeting algorithms temporarily. It won't last long, but it could give us the opening we need." The Aurora slipped past the outer defenses, but the crew knew this was only the beginning. The stronghold's internal security systems were far more dangerous. Inside the stronghold's perimeter, the Aurora faced a labyrinth of energy barriers, automated defense turrets, and environmental hazards. Every system seemed designed to exploit weakness and hesitation. Adrian reminded the crew, "Do not rush. Observe patterns, adapt quickly, and coordinate. Humans think differently than machines. That is our advantage." Even minor mistakes could have been fatal, but humans relied on ingenuity, teamwork, and ethical judgment rather than brute force. As they advanced, the rogue Illyrians attempted to exploit moral dilemmas. Automated systems identified the Aurora's medical bay and threatened simulated harm to civilians, an artificial test designed to force the humans to choose between self-preservation and moral action. Adrian took a deep breath. This is a test of ethics, not threat. We will find a solution that preserves life without sacrificing mission objectives. Humans solve problems others cannot because we combine courage with morality. That is how we act. Humans had adapted, combining intelligence, ethics, and teamwork to overcome the trap. Lyra floated near the observation window, her violet eyes bright with approval. You are remarkable, humans. Many would have panicked or acted selfishly. You act with thought and heart simultaneously. That is rare. This will require precise coordination, analytical thinking, and trust in each other. There is no brute force solution. We succeed through ingenuity and collaboration. That is what humans do. Analysts monitored energy flows and environmental data, predicting shifts before they occurred. Adrian coordinated every step, ensuring calm and focus. Lyra observed silently, occasionally providing subtle hints through patterns only humans could detect. She did not solve the problem for them. She allowed humans to discover solutions, teaching them to rely on observation, reasoning, and moral judgment. Minutes felt like hours as the crew approached the core. Automated defenses activated, energy fields flared, and warning sirens blared. The Aurora shuddered under strain, but the humans remained focused. Every action was deliberate, every decision calculated, yet adapted in real time to new challenges. Finally, the team reached the core. Using a combination of human ingenuity and careful observation, they synchronized the ship's interface with the reactor, stabilizing energy flows and neutralizing automated defenses. The rogue Illyrian systems, designed to test impulsive or unethical reactions, were outmaneuvered by human intelligence and collaboration. The stronghold went silent. Defense drones powered down, energy barriers collapsed, and the facilities systems acknowledged the humans' success. Adrian allowed himself a rare smile. We did it. Not through force, but through intelligence, collaboration, and ethical judgment. That is humanity's strength. You have proven that humans are capable of rising above challenges that others could not endure. They had faced impossible odds, navigated deadly systems, and solved complex ethical dilemmas. They had done so not through luck, technology alone, or brute force, but through ingenuity, courage, and moral judgment, the very qualities that defined humanity. Lyra's voice was calm, yet filled with admiration. Captain, humans are capable of greatness. You combine thought with action, intellect with morality, and courage with collaboration. That is rare in the galaxy. That is why you are the species I was sent to observe. That is our gift. They had proven that humans were not merely capable of surviving the galaxy. They were capable of mastering it through ingenuity, cooperation, and moral courage. Lyra floated near the observation deck, her violet eyes shining. Captain, your people have shown the galaxy something few species can, the ability to rise to any challenge with thought, ethics, and courage. You are not only survivors, you are innovators, protectors, and problem solvers. That is why humans are exceptional. It was a test, a reflection of humanity itself, a measure of restraint, wisdom, and moral judgment. Humans had succeeded because they acted with intelligence, ethics, and teamwork, rather than fear or impulsive action. Lyra, he said quietly, you were sent to challenge us, to guide us, and to observe us. We have learned, adapted, and succeeded. Humanity will continue to rise to the challenges of the galaxy, not through domination, but through thought, courage, and collaboration. To witness the rise of your species. They had proven that intelligence combined with ethics, courage combined with collaboration, and observation combined with action created a species capable of achieving greatness. The rogue Illyrians, once doubting humanity, had been shown otherwise. The humans aboard the Aurora had succeeded not because they were the fastest, strongest, or most advanced, but because they were uniquely human. Their ability to think, adapt, collaborate, and act morally under pressure had turned impossible challenges into triumphs. Captain Adrian Voss stood on the bridge, looking at the stars, and felt a profound sense of pride. Not in himself alone, but in his crew and in humanity as a whole. They had been tested, challenged, and observed, and they had risen to every occasion. Lyra floated beside him, her presence calm and radiant. Captain, she said softly, humans are a species of great potential. You have proven that thought, morality, and courage are sometimes stronger than any weapon. The galaxy will remember this. and I will continue to witness your rise. Humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning, but the lessons they had learned, the value of ingenuity, collaboration, and ethical judgment, would guide them for generations. The Aurora continued its voyage, carrying its crew and their enigmatic guide toward the unknown. Humans had faced the ultimate challenge, and they had emerged victorious, not through force, but through intelligence, courage, morality, and the uniquely human ability to rise above expectation. Lyra looked at Adrian one last time, her violet eyes filled with quiet admiration. I understand now. You are the gift, human. Not because of strength, not because of speed, but because of what you can do with your mind, heart, and courage. That is humanity. That is why you will rise.